What up, this is Rama Screen covering movies, TV, and entertainment, and here's my review of JT LeRoy. Let's rock this. Two people performing as one and the same identity or personality. Immediately the thought that crosses your mind is probably last year's Black Klansman. Understandably so, because it's still fresh in our memories. Well, JT LeRoy's concept is slightly different, but somewhat similar to that. But allow me to put it this way. What JT LeRoy movie sorely lacks in its style and pacing and directing, it makes up for in the remarkable performances by its two leads, Laura Dern and Kristen Stewart. Written by Savannah Knoop and Justin Kelly, the latter of whom also directed this film, starring Kristen Stewart, Laura Dern, Jim Sturgis, Courtney Love, Diane Kruger. In JT LeRoy, Kristen Stewart plays a young woman named Savannah Knoop, who spends 6 years pretending to be the celebrated author and cult status character JT LeRoy, the made-up literary persona of her sister-in-law, the actual author of JT LeRoy's books, Laura Albert, played by the multiple Oscar nominee Laura Dern. Okay, so there's this documentary feature back in 2016 called Author the JT LeRoy Story, which would give you a better idea of what actually happened. If you are curious enough to see how this lie kind of snowballed and then became glamorized until the wheels eventually came off the rails. Laura Dern's character technically employs, or rather acquires, the favor of Savannah Knoop to be the face and the body JT LeRoy, walking around, signing autographs, taking selfies, doing press conferences, and attending parties with famous people. This may well be the most clever trick or prank that we've seen since Andy Kaufman had everyone believe that Tony Clifton was a real person. One of the highlights in this movie is in the early days when Laura Albert and Savannah Knoop as JT tried to sell this hoax to photographers. Laura would often be the mouthpiece in the role of a publicist, as JT sticks to her shy, boy of a few words script. That whole thing provides for a pretty comedic scene, as Laura would step in, but the photographers would get irritated because they wanted JT, not Laura, to be the one giving the responses. But as it progresses, you can tell that Kristen Stewart's character and Laura Dern's character start to have differences of opinions as to how JT should be portrayed. They disagree about what food JT likes to eat, what drinks, what music he likes, and so on and so forth. There's no consistency. Oftentimes they're not on the same page. There are so many close calls where their cover's almost blown, and so all of that shenanigan is absolutely amusing. The direction and the style of this film, unfortunately, come across as mundane. A fascinating, extraordinary true story like this deserves more than just an ordinary depiction, but that's what we get here. And for whatever reason I can't seem to understand, Director Justin Kelly likes resorting to montages. There's the montage of the party scene, there's the montage of the photo shoot, there's montage of the hanging out, there's montage of this, montage of that. After a while, it just gets old, and it seems lazy. On top of that, the pacing drags. It doesn't do a good job of retaining your interest. Look, movies about frauds and imposters are nothing new. So it would have done this film and us, the audience, much good if director Justin Kelly had applied some visually arresting scenes that would look as eccentric as the characters are, as opposed to just settle for yet another montage. But thankfully, as I mentioned earlier, the two leads, Laura Dern and Kristen Stewart, are outstanding. Laura gives this enthusiastic, occasionally playful, but sometimes manic performance. The thing that you need to understand about the character Laura Albert is that in the beginning, she takes satisfaction and joy She takes pleasure in the thrill of fooling everybody. But as the rift between her view of JT LeRoy and Savannah's view of JT LeRoy grow wider, Laura Albert's insecurity sinks in, and at times she gets defensive. And you, the audience, get a real good read of that situation thanks to Laura Dern, who is on point at embodying those pockets of details. Kristen Stewart is equally great as Savannah, who eventually finds herself carried away by her own version of JT LeRoy. What's funny is that when Savannah as JT LeRoy is answering press questions, the way she does it kind of reminds me of how Kristen Stewart usually answers press questions. And of course, I'm basing that only on the junkets of hers that I've covered. My observations on that may be a little off, and who knows whether or not it's intentional on her part. But that does make her all the more perfect for this role, in addition to her physical transformation with the wig and the outfit. The chemistry and the banters between Laura Dern and Kristen Stewart are terrific. So even if you find JT LeRoy overall to be an unimpressive movie, you will find Laura Dern and Kristen Stewart worth the watch. So that's it. That's my review of JT LeRoy. Share your thoughts in the comment section below, and as always, subscribe to my channel, press that like button, and ring that bell so you can get notified whenever I post new videos. Hey, if you like this review and you want me to make more, please contribute monthly to help support this channel at Ramascreen Patreon page. Become my patrons today at patreon.com/Ramascreen. Let's rock this.